I know people think that like people like us that are conscious about our privacy and our security and go, "Oh, have you got something to hide?" It's like, well, not necessarily, but let's just throw a scenario at you. Would you be all right with me filming you having a shit? And they're like, no. Why? Got something to hide? Doing something weird? Shoving something up there? Well, no. No,
How did you know?
I'm just having a poop. You're like, so why can't I film you then? It's like, well, I don't fucking want you. It's like, exactly. You know, your reaction to that, that's my reaction with my banking, with me living my life, with me bringing up my kids, with everything. I don't want you looking at it, right? Unless I've welcomed you in. And
Are
now,
you
obviously,
saying you don't fly the LBGTQ whatever plus in your property? Do you not fly the flag?
no, there's a massive Ukraine flag there already, and I'm not.
Think you know, but I know that you do, 'cause your dollar ain't shit, and it's taxed to no end, 'cause the rich men, 'cause the rich men.
Boom, we are back. Yes, once again. This is the world's most bullish podcast brought to you by Mr. All In, aka the $1 Trillion Man, Dr. Evil 10%, aka the People's Champ, myself, Sir Neverlook, aka the Excellence of Execution, and once again, Mrs. No Show, aka Mrs. No Show, here for Pod 108. Or seemingly not. Yes, bullish Bitcoin banter and bullshit. The most unsponsorable show that is always cancelable at any time. What's going on, guys?
When would you take Mrs. No Show out your intro?
I don't really know.
What's it got to get up to?
It's just a meme at this point.
Indefinite.
Yeah, I suppose it is a meme, which everyone, I think I get asked, who's Mrs. No Show? I always forget. I was like, go to episodes 1, 3, and what was it, about 90? No, actually, it was way before 90, maybe about 80.
No. Yeah, 80 something.
Yeah.
I always get worried about recommending early episodes though, because they were a mess.
Yeah.
We think we're pretty, haphazard now and it's just a chat, but we're so structured now compared to where we were when we first began. We didn't have anything written down. I don't think we literally just started recording and just chatted shit for 2.5 hours. Yeah. So like I know someone came in recently and started going, I start at the beginning. I'm like, please don't start at the beginning. Start at the end. Start at the end and work back. Like I know they will not get more than 3 back. It's just I'm almost but that's the thing. They always say if you're not embarrassed of your first 10 podcasts, then you started releasing too late, because you should be embarrassed. They should be a bit shitty, because it's just rough and ready. And even now, like, we're not freaking polished in any shape or form, but at least we have an agenda that is roughly in some type of story order. But man, episode 3 and stuff they were fucking horrendous.
It flows coherently, doesn't it? In and out, and there's always sometimes that overlap, but no, it's good. And it just always depends on what actually comes up. The agenda writes itself, as we always say with Bitcoin. Each and every week, we scratch around and find these stories to bring to everybody, and they're there. Something that hasn't actually changed in terms of the code, but yet we still find stories on it.
Indeed.
Dr. Evil 10% is having a wank equally as well on 108 quietly. Interesting. He's decided to use this pod as his outlet.
He's just going to hope we're not going to notice.
I was going to say, you haven't noticed for 107 episodes. And it wasn't just one.
Whenever he's doing that, I just hope he's looking down in the screen, so at least he's looking at you as he's doing it, not at me. I don't want to be what gets him off.
I was going to say, I've just shuffled the windows round, so you're now down at the bottom.
I don't want to be a bottom. Can you actually move the windows around? Oh my god!
Yeah.
That's actually I learned something new every day. There you go. I didn't know you could turn. I just thought it was the order people came in at. Move them around. There you go.
I really didn't.
Now I'm worried then because you were looking at the bottom, and if I'm there, then that's worrying. I'm scared.
Don't be scared.
Yeah, don't
Embrace
be scared.
it.
All right, let's move on to the first story of the week before we start
Let's do
making
it.
out. So it's exactly 10 years ago today how Finney made his final post to the Bitcoin forum before logging off forever. Gone, but not forgotten. Yeah, Hal Finney.
This was just well, it's a bit inane chat. It wasn't anything specific, was it? Because I was looking for the message to kind of thinking, oh, this will be good to read it. And it was what was it? It was a thread about what they used to use when credit cards weren't so widespread. So we used checks for high value transactions, cashier checks. I don't know how this transfers to a Bitcoin environment, though there wasn't as much mail order back then. Most shopping was local. So I suppose it's around money, but I was hoping that it was some big tweet.
Yeah, like his last words. Yeah. No, I think unfortunately for Hal, it was his health. I don't think he wanted to leave, but he had, what is it? ALS.
Yeah.
So, and I think it hit him hard and fast. So I don't think he had any intention really of leaving. So I don't think he probably did have some final posts probably planned in his brain, but I think in his own brain, being the kind of guy that he is I'm not ready to post my final post yet. But then unfortunately after that kind of just chit chat, he's always in the forums, just answering questions, being helpful. And obviously if anyone doesn't know, he's the guy that received the very first Bitcoin transaction ever from Satoshi. He sent it to Hal Finney to confirm that, can you send a transaction from Bitcoin? And Hal was the very first beta test for that, and then helped hugely with the code. There's rumors that maybe he is Satoshi himself. Don't want to, I don't want people thinking that too much. I'd like Hal's name to be left and not be dragged up in the Satoshi conversation too much. Obviously, he's one of the suspects, right? The guy that he sends the first transaction to. Was he just sending it to himself? Who knows? But the one thing is definitely for sure he's a legend, and it's just an opportunity to talk about Hal Finney again and just go, he's an absolute.
So
legend.
do you reckon he ever met Craig Wright?
Barely sully Hal's name by mentioning that.
I mean, just looking at it, so his post was August the 9th, 2013, and he died the following year in August, didn't he? So, probably relatively rapid and probably not particularly nice.
No, ALS is a horrible way to go, yeah. But
and the fact that he was super fit previously as well, wasn't he? In terms of health wise,
he had beastly quads, didn't he?
And calves, yeah. He was a big runner, yeah. But yeah, like literally, it's very likely if it wasn't for Hal and probably a couple of other people, we literally wouldn't be here speaking about Bitcoin. It wouldn't exist.
So would we be talking about SHIB?
So the upside of if that hadn't have happened, SHIB would not exist either. It's all
I mean, there's a chance because Bitcoin wasn't the first iteration, was it? Like there was what the cyberpunks were doing, and was it the 90s where they kind of were looking into the concept, but it's whether someone would have nailed the actual concept of money, make it into sound money, which can't be fucked with. You kind of think about all the things which they got right on Bitcoin, and they still can't get right on other crypto like Ethereum, whatever else they bring in. Where they say, "Oh, this is the dog's bollocks," and it's just not sound money.
Yeah,
especially when we're 70% pre-mine.
Yeah,
I do think it's one of those where I don't think Bitcoin is a thing, because I think with things like electricity, say cars, just the wheel in general, stuff like that. There's obviously people that invented all those things, and yet if they didn't do it, someone else would have, just because it's just part of human evolution and the evolution of civilization. Like, these things would have always been discovered. But Bitcoin, for me, it is another one of those, but it needed to happen in this perfect circumstance where we weren't clued in. There weren't shit coins first. There was a problem with the money, a genuine need for and desire from the community for this. And then just the people that got together that produced Bitcoin were extremely knowledgeable, much older than we are now, had seen multiple, were geniuses, and created this thing. And then, unfortunately, for virtually everyone I think involved in the project, they died. So genuinely left it as a gift to all of us to kind of just come in later. So it's this weird thing of, genuinely, I think if it hadn't have happened here, it may never have. Because the thing is, like, if you look at like an Elon or a Mark Zuckerberg, Jeff Bezos, they're the kind of guys leading tech, right? If they'd have come up with a decentralized money, you'd have gone, do you hold a key though? And they probably they'd had a backdoor, because secretly ego and control and the community doesn't know better than me would have taken over, and then they just start messing. And before you know it, this isn't Bitcoin, it's just fiat, but owned by a company instead of a government. And before you know it, the biggest government will take ownership of the company, and then we're back to fiat again. It would all have broken. We needed these 4, 5, 10 geniuses to put this together for us. And then
it does seem like it
die. They need to die.
It's had the 10 years of like building up and increasing, improving. And it does seem like at times we're on the edge at the moment. Like, we've got a couple of stories tonight. Argentina, we've got one which we haven't got around Niger, which we've left alone because it's still shrouded in mystery. Then there's also just countries like America, Canada, UK, where people are struggling because of mass inflation. And I was watching one earlier, and I think it was, that Wall Street Bets. And they had this one about, I think it was Americans who said they were struggling, to pay their bills because they got their car, they got their house, everything which they've been told to buy. And their groceries now are through the roof, and they're struggling to pay for everything because they're leveraged. It's like, go and enjoy yourself. You deserved it. I'll get my car. I'll get my house because I've got to own a house. I've got to have a nice car. I've got to keep on getting a better one because that's what's been ingrained into me. And it's, we've had a 40% shock on food because they've printed that amount of money over the last few years. And also energy as well. So these people can't afford their lifestyle, and they're locked into all these contracts around houses and cars. And I just think it's, I think it's got to come to a head, but it does worry me that the CBDC will be pushed in soon.
Yeah, well, we've got a few.
Well, we know that's coming. I mean, I was actually talking to young MBA just last week, and he was surprised and amazed, and I'm sure he'll naturally be listening as he does each week. There are 130 countries all looking at CBDCs, and so without a shadow of a doubt, they are coming.
Yeah,
but it just makes the case for Bitcoin and the decentralized nature of Bitcoin even stronger.
Well, it's just that simple question to anyone. I haven't heard anyone actually agree with a CBDC, by the way, so far. If someone does say very, very good idea, it's like, why would you trust a government who've pretty much bankrupted their own currency to have something which has got the ability to lock you in and surveil your every move? Why would you trust that government to do that?
Yeah. Oh, and unfortunately, a lot of people do subscribe to the ethos of, if you haven't done anything wrong, then you've got nothing to hide. That's the whole line that people hide.
It's how that window starts off. Oh yeah, we're just getting with criminals. All you are fine. It's like, you're not fine. You're not fine. You're not fine. And then it's this little letterbox at the end.
I know people think that people like us that are conscious about our privacy and our security and go, "Oh, have you got something to hide?" It's like, well, not necessarily, but let's just throw a scenario at you. Would you be all right with me filming you having a shit? They'd be like, no. Why? Got something to hide? Doing something weird? Shoving something up there? No. No, I'm
How
just, I'm
did
just
you
having,
know?
I'm just having a poop. You're like, so why can't I film you then? It's like, well, I don't fucking want you. It's like, exactly. You know, your reaction to that, that's my reaction with my banking, with me living my life, with me bringing up my kids, with everything. I don't want you looking at it, right? Unless I've welcomed you in. And
Are
now,
you
obviously,
saying you don't fly the LBGTQ whatever plus in your property? Do you not fly the flag?
no, there's a massive Ukraine flag there already, and I'm not.
We've gone on a massive tangent of this.
I was going to say also, I think that's the opening clips for the show sorted already. What, you don't want to watch me take a shit? No, no, I don't.
It's bizarre though, because people will literally they use that argument of it's fine if the government are looking at my finances.
I was going to say,
why would you be bad? Why is it bad that the government can look at my money? And you buying drugs with yours? Because I'm not. I'm fine. You just go. There's a law that they can bring up a law that just makes buying Bitcoin illegal, and then suddenly they can look at your transactions, and you buy Bitcoin with your money. Now you're a criminal. Yeah, or you bought 4 steaks this week and you're only allowed 2. You're a criminal now. You know, so it's very the line of where a criminal is keeps getting closer and closer to a fucking just normal living person.
You
There's virtually no one that isn't a criminal at this point.
So you have not stated your pronouns in your email. On that, I suppose on that subject, I suppose because we have got Miss No Show, our show will always be allowed because he/she has their pronouns. But anyway, should we move on to the next exciting story?
Let's do it. So this one really hit home for me, and I actually thought I'm going to potentially look at the hallmarks of where I am in life in terms of age for each halving as well. So the story is your share of Bitcoin is worth less than a fuel of tank for now. However, that sounds like, as it says here, little and like an amount to have lying inconsequentially somewhere on or around, like on a software wallet, because to fill my car is around about £80 right now, certainly with the decrease in fuel prices. But if we look to the year 2064, this will be roughly the amount of fresh Bitcoin per new block. And then I thought, wow, people, companies will be hounding to get the newest block, of course, that pumps out every 10 minutes. And at what price will that block be, despite the fact that it will be 0.002625 Bitcoin after X amount of halvings to get to that point? And I was like, I haven't got enough Bitcoin.
They're going to have to come up with some new memes for Bitcoin amounts, aren't they?
Yeah.
So it's got to go down and down because what is it? It's a 4.2. What is it? 6.9.
6.15.
6.15. Yeah, so there were always ones. What were Mr. Allin will know. What were the kind of like meme sayings which are on about for those?
Yeah, well, back in the day when I first got into Bitcoin, it was everyone was trying to get 6.15 Bitcoin for infinite riches and big titty bitches. I think in reality, I think all that really happened with that, I think they halved it, like you do with the halving. But I think in reality now it's gone to 0.615 because even being a whole coiner, especially during, I think about a year ago, obviously when we were at 60k, if the average person to be a whole coiner now is unrealistic. Even with DCA, especially if the price keeps going away from them. There's almost to get to 0.615 Bitcoin, which is a tenth of what it was if you go back. And eventually it's going to have to go below this, right? So this is 0.002625 Bitcoin. So this is another 2 zeros down and a third of what I'm saying now. But I think right now, getting 0.6 Bitcoin is realistic for just about everyone. If you DCA in over a year or two, you should be fine if the price stays relatively where we are. But unfortunately for the people stacking now, I don't think the price will stay where it is. I think we're gonna go firing off in the next year, most likely. And so this is the time to try and do it though. But eventually, just what is it? Basically, if anyone is even sitting on the fence with zero, getting off zero and getting your allocation of Bitcoin, just as we said, I think we said it was $59 or something a couple of months ago.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, something around there. Super. I think it was 69. It was literally $69.
It's 69, yeah. So the price of Bitcoin's gone up slightly. So now it's $77 instead of 69.
Yeah.
You got to pay $8 more now for your sats. But that is your world allocation of sats. If you divide the amount of Bitcoin by the 8 billion people, $77 gets you your allocation right now, which weirdly, I was actually watching a video and I was going to link it, but the guy was just too moronic. I couldn't put him in. But he was talking about how the distribution of Bitcoin isn't fair. Like too few people have the majority of the Bitcoin and all stuff like that. And you just go, when you look back on it and go, but hold on, right now, if you want your fair allocation of Bitcoin, it costs you less than $100 to get it. And you're telling me it's not fair. Of course, some people that got in very early have a huge amount of Bitcoin, right? And you can go, oh, that's not fair. It's like, well, this is supply and demand. This is business. The people that get in, they spot a good business opportunity first. They become super wealthy. But people go, oh, but Bitcoin's already been distributed and all the Bitcoin is in the hands of a few people, and it's just not fair for the average person coming in now. And you go, well, yeah, it's like the price has gone from 0 to 30K, but if you get your allocation of Bitcoin, it costs you less than $100. So of course, you want to be greedy and you want to buy thousands of dollars and you want to be the richest guy in there. And you feel that because you're coming in 14 years late, it's too late. But this stat constantly proves that it is not too late. Until this $77 gets to tens of thousands of dollars, then I would probably say to people, yeah, it's too late now for you to get your fair allocation. But I would still buy whatever allocation you can, because this is going to be the unit of exchange. So you're very, very late now, but right now, like, you're still early. For someone to get their fair allocation for less than $100, how much fair would you want it? We're 14 years in, for fuck's sake.
It did also make me think, we are super early in terms of it, because, if anything, I wish I was a little bit younger, because, come 40 years from now, be close to 80. And I'm like, providing I'm alive still, but oh my God, I'd be super rich at that point. Because I can imagine it be.
Or would you be in the pod? Or would you be in the pod eating the bugs? I think we've covered it in a few different angles there. So like the fair allocation, but also the simple one, whatever your net worth is, 1%. That's a really simple one. Like 1% isn't going to break you, isn't going to harm you, but it's certainly a hedge against fiat. And it's one which is worth taking a punt on. I mean, look at the history. I know that you can't predict the future off of history, but just throwing 1% as a kind of hedge against fiat, and read about the BlackRock ETFs, read about El Salvador and their last 3-4 years. Well, actually, read the last 20 years about El Salvador and what change has happened. And then also read about what's happening in Argentina. And those are your kind of reasons why you should get your allocation of Bitcoin into your portfolio.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And by the way, there's an image linked on the tweet and it's a pencil drawing from the person that posted this.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely fucking epic. And
Really?
he's obviously edited it slightly to put a Bitcoin logo in the middle, but it's inspired by a magnificent main entrance door of the Duomo di Milano, which bears a masterpiece of a bronze relief. And so this Bitcoiner, not only is he spitting, that's a good tweet, he's spitting out some good stuff there, but he's also a freaking talented artist. Like that is an epic pencil drawing. Might well be the thumbnail. So hopefully people would have seen it.
Yeah.
But it's,
let's give him a follow.
Yeah. But then
it's a little bit off topic, but I know I think we may have addressed it and covered it. But how are you guys feeling about the switch from the bird to the X? Like, it's not just the.
I just try to ignore it. I'm like, I think I probably noticed it with my show notes when I was saying, what was it, x.com, and I was just like, but then I suppose it's just using it. I just kind of ignore it now. I just go in, but my Twitter is quite fucked up at the moment because I keep on refreshing it, looking for Liverpool Football Club stories, waiting for transfers. So once the transfer window's gone, I'm gonna have to clean up my 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 thread. Otherwise, I'm just gonna have absolute crap on there.
One for Bitcoin, one for personal.
It was mainly Bitcoin, but now it's got too much Liverpool in it because I'm so desperate.
Yeah, no, the only thing that I noticed that as I was pasting the links over up till last week, even though the site had been rebranded to X, the tweets that you were linking over still said twitter.com on them. Yes. But now I've been pasting them over, they all say x.com, but even though bizarrely the URL that I'm pasting from says twitter.com, but when you paste it, it changes to x.com.
Yeah, I'm just having a look then.
So the first thing I got worried about was, has he broken all the links for all our show notes ever? Every tweet is now broken. They're not. So even though it's x.com, it's still, the twitter.com is still there. That's all I cared about. I was just like, Elon, name it what you want. I don't really care. But don't break up the links, right? Because that's the problem he's got, right? Where Twitter and a lot of its reach is from embedding tweets, linking tweets, all that kind of stuff. Of course. And you want those articles and show notes and all that stuff. You want them to work 10, 20, 30 years in the future, don't you? Yeah. If he just rebrands it all to x.com and every twitter.com link breaks, oh man, the amount of stuff that he's broken on the internet there, the trillions of links that have gone to Twitter over that time. But he hasn't. That's what I cared about. But he can call it what he wants. Don't give a shit. Anyway, Michael Burry. Should we have a look at him?
I read a good tweet about him in the last week. It was something like he's predicted 13 of the last 2 crashes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he has been. Yeah, he's definitely a bear. He's definitely a bear. But I think it's rare that he's this bearish. And this is proof, right? This isn't the whole don't trust, verify thing. So this actually has got an additional context added to the tweet, because this is his positions as of June 30th. So he may have sold them already, these positions. However, 93% of his entire portfolio is short, and he's short basically the stock market, is the SPY and the QQQ, which is basically the S&P 500. He's 1.6.
What is a QQQ? Because it's the Trust Series 1. It's not one which I'm familiar with.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's either a Vanguard or a BlackRock ETF for the stock market. So yeah, he's 1.6 billion, which, if anything, the main thing that surprised me about this was he only has 2 billion, is it? Because he's 93% of his in portfolio. But maybe portfolio just means he's got 2 billion in the market. But yeah, he's massively, massively short of the market. And if this is as of June 30th, then this would go along with the same playbook as of 2008, which is so far he is wrong. The market has only gone up then, and I think he was wrong.
It's got to crash, hasn't it? Because you think it's usually a couple of years after you get the inflation, and then when when it's been overprinted, it causes a massive contraction. But then they started printing again, didn't they? You know, they're like, oh yes, we need to print for Ukraine. We need to print for the energy prices, but it's like you caused those. And so you kind of got this second wave of inflation, which we're currently surfing. So I think it will happen. But having a quick look at the QQQ, it's the NASDAQ 100, so I know what it is now. So it's pretty much American stock market again.
Yeah.
So quite interesting he's gone for that. But I'd always look at this at the moment. I kind of think, is it the time when everything's really crashes? Because 2008, it ultimately rebounded. It took a number of years to rebound. But is this it? You know, is this when we move to some godforsaken system like CBDCs, or China takes on over, or, you know, history says that this is going to happen. The patterns happen again and again, pretty much the same. So it's just, is this the time, or is it the next time when it's really going to break down?
Because it is bizarre to me, because we seem to come out of the whole lockdown period. Everyone was worried. The market was all-time highs. We had a big crash, but it wasn't really that big. It wasn't, we're never going to get over it type crash. It was just a bit of a correction with some of the obviously lockdown stocks lost 70-80%. But over the last year or two, since we've come out of that lockdown stuff, most prices have pretty much returned back to where they were by and large. And you just go, we need to pay a price, like a proper price. That was just, we came out of lockdown, everyone went back to work, and suddenly a load of that free money where people bored sat at home with their stimmy checks or their 80% of their salary, but nothing to spend it on, and they were just dumping it into the stock market and buying meme coins or whatever. Okay, fine, that money's gone. So we crashed, and maybe a load of people got scared and ran away from investing. But you go, that was like people investing their stimmy checks and their 80% of their salary in, what was it called, furlough? Jesus, I've forgotten that word. That wasn't actually the core problem. That was just a very small symptom of the situation. The core problem underneath it all was the money printing. And the fact that it got completely out of control. For 2 years, hardly any human effort had gone into the system. But yet the market was valuing that system at all-time highs, because money had been printed out of thin air, given to people, and they just pumped it back into a stock market. And you go, these two things don't add up. This is just printed money on top of companies that are worth less than they were 2 years ago. But according to the stock market, they're worth double. This has to implode. And obviously, on top of that, the fact that this money is completely bollocks anyway, it has been bollocks for 50 years. We need a serious correction. We need a serious kind of reset. And I guess that's what Michael Burry is predicting. And he's the guy that's talking sense in my eyes. Obviously, he hates Bitcoin. So I'm not going to cherry pick the things that I like or dislike about him. You know, I must admit, I look at this and go, when you put 1.6 billion as a short on the stock market, and he does this on June 30th, that means he thinks it's happening any minute now. Yeah, because if you thought it was going to happen in 6 months, you'd have put this short in 6 months. He thinks it's imminent, this big collapse. And when I look at the market sentiment, I listen to various podcasts, people that are in VC venture and run businesses. They are all talking about the fact we're out of it now. We've recovered. We're out. Now it's just a case of rebuilding slowly, making sure nothing gets too FOMO-y, not too frothy.
Well, I was going to say the interest rates are going to when the interest rates start wrecking the bottom of the market, that's when the floor disappears.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I can't understand how people are continuing on right now.
Well, if you think 3 to 5 year mortgages, So say they started at 19, 20, 21. The price is properly hiked in, what was it, 2022/2023. So literally 2024, 25 is probably when you're looking at house prices destroying people. So when they come back on and it's 7%, they can't afford that house, especially not when their electricity's doubled, and especially when their food costs 40% more.
Yeah.
So I think it's a matter of time, and it's understanding when all these mortgages, when all these loans, agreements, whatever that they need to continue their lifestyle end, and also what they need for their life, and needs to be renewed. So like a car, does the person need a car to commute? And if they do, and it comes up for renewal, and it's an extra $400 a month, and they can't afford that, then it's kind of like, well, they have to get the bus. Okay, they get the bus. It's a pain in the arse for them, but then it means the dealer doesn't get it, and it's happened God knows how many times. So the dealer then goes out of business. Then you lose 20 people unemployed, and it's just like kind of knock-on effect. And then you've got the circular economy. It comes back. More and more people get unemployed. So he's right. I just don't know if it's quite this year yet. But obviously, he would know a lot better than me.
Yeah, good. That's my reading of this as well. I think he's 18 months too early, because I totally agree with you, right? That's why I had this big debate on freaking Twitter with a guy we both know who might be listening. But it's one of them where the market needs to collapse, but you need to the state of the market needs to hit the people, and certain people are protected. They have their mortgages that have fixed rates, loans have fixed rates. So all that's really hitting them is the price of their bills, their food, their energy, their petrol, pretty much everything. But they're luxury goods they can just cut back on. It's quite easy to cut back on a luxury good. Fortunately,
and you think probably most people have got that buffer of luxury goods as well. So cut that back. When you're down to the essentials, and then it's just like, I can't do a holiday. Cut the holiday out. So it's still going through that buffer, and it's also, well, I can't buy this type of good. I'm going to have to skip a bottle of wine. So, it's still more and more. And I think there's still quite a lot to work through on that.
Yeah. And in reality, the real hit of inflation still hasn't hit them, because it's their debt and their mortgage. That's where the real inflation is about to come. And that hasn't hit them yet, because they got fixed rate on both. Their loans are fixed and their mortgage are fixed for 3 to 5 years. So that needs to come to fruition. And then suddenly they will realize their mortgage and any loans they have eat up all their spare cash, plus goes into essentials. And like you just described there, they've already got a buffer, right? So the buffer, if that was to hit them now, it would eat their buffer up probably a bit more, but they might be able to kind of figure it out. But what's happening is the cost of everything else has eaten the buffer and is starting to eat into essentials. So people are struggling genuinely. And guess what? They're not even struggling really yet, because they're still under the old 0% interest rate world. Once the 5, 6, 7% interest rates hit them, their mortgages and their loans are going to go through the roof. And that throws you into a world of, well, we're bankrupt. Yeah, literally the amount of the incomings and outgoings now, they were probably largely all in the black to a certain degree. Now they're probably just about in the red. This puts them so deep in that you go, well, it literally gets to a point where there's no point even paying the mortgage now. There's no point paying the loan, because we know we're going to default. So what happens? Now we have mass bankruptcies, and that is when we get the reckoning. That is the house.
But you kind of think you still got a couple of layers to get to the household, because I was watching Wall Street Bets, and she said, I can't afford this. When my daughter's not with me, when she's with her dad, I'll eat like rye bread, and that's about it. But she mentioned a house, a car. And obviously it's quite what people even I know have gone, I've got this much spare cash a month. I'll put it into a car because I deserve it. It's like 500, 600 quid or something. And it's still, you kind of go, I can't pay this anymore. And there'll be break clauses every so often. So you have to pay up to a certain amount, but then you can break out. They'll just have to have no car. And I think that's what you're going to see is the first one is cars. But then you're kind of going, you're making a load of people redundant over there. And it's got the knock-on effect because they're not bringing money to then spend on other things.
Yeah.
So you've kind of like made redundancies in car, but also that's a knock-ons to other different sectors where they haven't got jobs. That's your first buffer. But when it starts coming back to I can't afford my mortgage and my food, that's when things go pretty much parabolic, don't they?
Yeah, and also it's the linkages between the interest rates and unemployment as well, because I think we'll start to see that. And of course, we've seen the increase in AI, so jobs are becoming more and more harder to come by because once upon a time you always thought, well, if I lose my job, I'll just go and stack shelves. I'll just be a cashier. But now the cashier isn't really needed because you've got all of the, self-serve kiosks.
So what you're saying is hanging out in the train station toilets.
I'm so transparent. Yep, I'm sucking dick just to pay the mortgage. I'm on my knees. I'm doing whatever I can.
I was going to say, big mortgage going to have to be a lot of dick.
Yeah. Keep it coming.
He didn't say it's the men's toilets. Could be the women's toilets.
Don't discriminate, but then again, it's also what type of woman.
There's probably still a lot of dick in the women's toilet now, isn't there?
But
yeah,
I just think the combination of lots of things of I don't get as many recruiters trying to slide into my DMs.
That's a fair point. Actually, it's been about half a year since I stopped. I haven't really got flooded about half a year now.
So it's happening, isn't it? It's there, and all of these things and all of these factors, I'm sure Burr is thinking and seeing and analysed, and naturally, he's gone early, but it's better to go early than never at all, right?
Yeah. And like I said, he'll probably be able to, look at a number of bits of data which we haven't got access to. So obviously would be interested to understand what it is when it comes out in The Big Short too.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Anyone that's watched The Big Short 1, he didn't short the entire housing market for no reason. He studied where all the debt was coming from and who owned all the debt. And he realized that people on very average salaries had one house they were living in that was above their means and 4 rent buy-to-let properties that they had as well. And it's all just, and really that type of debt should be classed as a B, but it was all classed as AAA, which is guaranteed. And AAA should be reserved for someone on a very high salary on a small mortgage. So super low risk. Even if this person loses their job and doesn't get employed for 6 months, they could still cover the mortgage, get another job, and be back in. Right? This mortgage is basically guaranteed to be paid by this type of payer, and they basically had people on very low incomes with 5 mortgages. This should be the highest class risk type of debt that you can pretty much get, other than just collection debt, which is literally already defaulted. This is one above defaulted debt, but Michael Burry discovered it was being passed around as AAA. He went, this is a house of cards. It's about to collapse. Boom. So I'd love to know, like you said, when The Big Short 2.0 comes out, if he's right, what data did he base this on? Because I'd love to know.
There's got to be a Big Short too, if it comes off.
If it happens. And that's the thing. I'd love to know what he's looking at right now. Because the stuff we're looking at is the interest rates and just going, well, that doesn't hit immediately. Interest rates take 3 to 5 years to kick in. But he's going, no, it's kicking in now. It's happening now.
He'll be able to look at the debt, the secured debt as well. So what people are taking out loans against, and maybe he'll be looking at credit card data and mortgage delinquency. So maybe he is seeing a lot more than we could imagine. It's being hidden as well from the media, I'm guessing. Well, the media are hiding it from people.
I'd love to actually think about some of those factors and understand exactly what he sees and thinks, okay, this is it.
Yeah. because he's highly autistic,
Yeah.
He's not an emotional trader that just feels like it's going down. He will have cast iron data that suggests that the market's going down. But then also going back to what Dr. 10% said at the beginning, he has been bearish a lot of times
Yeah.
and got it right a couple. So this could just be another time where he was super bearish and nothing happens. But he probably will be right just in a couple of years' time.
Yeah, but I think that about Robert Kiyosaki as well in his forever prediction of the market crashing. Eventually it is.
Humans do love cycles and routines, don't they? So when certain things happen, certain behaviors happen. So what's the meme? It's what's it? Hard men make good times make weak men make bad times, and then bad men make hard men make good times. So it's like the cycle. It's basically if you get things in abundance, you become lazy, and so you end up with free credit. Then you start taking too much, and everyone gets carried away. The government also gets carried away, and the government wants to then take everything off everyone, and then you end up in this massive cycle. It's actually every 10 years. I don't know what it's like before 1971, but we had it. Was it 2008, 9? Then before that, we had 2000, 2002, the dot-com bubble, then 92. And then the 80s, I don't know what we wanted in the 80s, but basically we've had it roughly every 10 years, and it is the cycle.
Well, let's keep watching.
That's the thing. And the thing, I think for the housing market as well, the housing market apparently, that's like, again, what I got educated from our learned friend is every 18 years that crashes, apparently. So 2008 was the last, 2026 would be the next.
Yeah.
And we said 2024, 2025 is our estimate off our little knowledge compared to Michael Burry. So, and then it caused a massive crash by 2026. So, roughly.
Yeah. And I always think like when cycles become too well known and too ingrained, then they have to break, right? Because what's going to end up happening is people front run the cycle. So it should happen slightly earlier, right? Because the housing market
is the halving.
But how do you avoid this? Do you start switching nation states to Bitcoin to stabilize them? Because we've had the rumors around China and BRICS moving to the gold standard.
Yeah.
So the countries have to move to a hard currency now because we've had 50 years and it's starting to really show that things are being destroyed.
Well, like we said, countries have got their own their own incentives, right? They're all chatting amongst themselves, and they're almost cycle immune if they peg themselves to the US and they just go, look, we're just going to keep raping, pillaging the rest of the nations, and we're going to keep going forever. We're fucking America. Great.
If you think about the standard person with a cycle, like I've got investments in S&P, and I'm just going, I'm not going to take them out because I can't time the market. I don't have that insight, but I know that I don't need it within the next 2 years. So I'm just going to sit on it for 10 years because it'll correct. It'll basically go massive dip, go back up. And it's probably like governments like, can't do a lot, just wait for the dip to happen and then ride it back up and then get the next dip, ride it back up.
Yeah, well, that's been the current cycle, yeah. And the only reason I would be more nervous now having that strategy than ever is eventually that won't be true.
Correct.
Yeah. So because it just can't, right? Because the only reason the stock market has always recovered and gone up isn't because the market is genuinely worth more. It's just that money's worth less. So it's just inflation.
You basically got two things: is America stops printing, so gold standard or Bitcoin standard, or two, America becomes defunct and China takes over or another country. So those are your two scenarios. So basically, if America goes, pretty much every single stock is fucked.
Yep.
Every single investment is fucked. The other one, Bitcoin or gold standard, is it becomes fixed at a certain amount, and then therefore we have a certain type of living, which you only get increases off innovation. So pretty much the S&P will just sit flat, because I think it tracks inflation perfectly, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, that's why it is a myth, and it's a myth that I probably have portrayed and carried it on in the fact that all really investing in the S&P 500 does is it doesn't make your money worth more. All you really do is track inflation, because that's what the stock market is doing. The stock market is not going up by 10% a year. All it is doing is the amount of money being printed in the world every year is going up by 10% on average.
Next, you're going to tell me, but GDP doesn't increase in every country every year. In real terms.
I know. Well, it doesn't. It's just the money's worth less.
But this is starting to sound like right wing talk. I'm going to turn off. I don't like this podcast anymore.
Well, you and I did read the book, Why Does the Stock Market Keep Going Up by Brian Feroldi, and it is exactly that. On average, 10% each and every year, therefore tracking the inflation, which is the true figure or thereabouts. And as we know, the people that run the governments and the society, they have their money placed there, so they're never going to let this thing collapse. However, we know that it will collapse eventually, but they are just continuing to kick the can down the road.
But the thing is, you've got to play the system till it collapses. Yeah, but you've also got to have your hedge against. You've got to have your hedge against the system, which is ultimately Bitcoin, because gold is too entrenched within the system, and especially the way which people have been buying it through paper gold.
Yeah,
and also like the whole thing, which I keep on saying is, why do the reserves of gold mining companies go up so much per year, but there's only 2% being produced?
Yeah.
And like
maybe the amount of gold isn't 2% every year, just in case someone hasn't clicked onto that.
Yeah, it's clearly a manipulated market, and the problem is what I would love, right, is an entire website that adjusts just about every form of asset and investment and adjusts it for inflation. It would take inflation out of it. And just take CPI, which we know even CPI is a fucking lie, right? Because it's a basket of goods which doesn't even include the high inflation items.
What was it called before? Was it RPI before?
No, I think
and that was quite a lie. There's one before which I used to use, and they had to stop using it in the 80s because it showed it too much, because they were too busy printing over that 10 years after they came off the gold standard. So they stopped using it, moved to CPI. But the thing is, that one was heavily manipulated as well. It's just the fact that they tried to have living things which you have, whereas CPI is taking out things like energy. Whereas the fact is, you should be going rent, mortgages, rent, house prices, energy, and basics of foods like chicken breasts and a mixture of a good diet. That's a true basket, isn't it?
Yeah, it should just be what it says on the tin. CPI should be fine. It's called a basket of goods that the average household consumes every year.
But they don't have energy.
But they don't have fucking meat. They don't have petrol. They don't have any high inflation good. They take it out every year. It's
petrol's manipulated though.
Yeah,
so we're about 130 about 10 years ago, and that was massively high, and we haven't really moved because that's the petrodollar. Like, it's part of the agreement. They can't inflate it too much.
Yeah. But it's just one of those things, right? I would love just to see actually what has been a good investment the last 50 years, because everything is so skewed. The fact that 50 years ago, £10, right, then would have had the equivalent of £50 to £100 worth of value. I mean, probably more. I don't even know.
I would say that literally every asset which you look at will show not to be a good investment. And the one, because it goes completely against my the way which my brain's hardwired, is basically debt. That's the best investment you can make. But it's working out how to control that debt and not let it get on top of you.
You mean like
leveraging debts by property or by businesses? Yeah, that is literally best. Getting debt to actually pay for your upkeep. But I struggle to get my head around that.
Yeah, the problem is you got to do a deal with the devil there, because where do you get debt from? It's from the banks. So fuck the banks. So that's an ethical decision that I've made, because I just don't want to give those.
But it basically is. It's the best investment. Like everything else, like you said, just tracks inflation. But when you can get an asset to be paid by debt, that is the one. and that's the last
Well,
50 years.
there are plenty of investments that have beaten inflation. We work for a company that beat inflation by miles, right?
But it's part of an asset class which is tracked inflation.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Because I think if you add everything together, the stock market has just tracked inflation. That is all it has done. But there are plenty of companies within there.
Oh yeah, but that's innovation.
Outperformed inflation.
Yeah, that's innovation. Like property
I
is pretty
want
much
to carry you on, down that thread, because you're absolutely right, Dr. Evil. 10% of, and this is why I've always said it in terms of leveraging the bank's money, and you only have to put in part of that money, and you can also renovate and get the money back as well. So you can get your money out of it, and you can be completely, no money left in.
But then I'd say for you, the next 2-3 years time is a big test of how well your model works. Because interest rates are going to shoot through the roof, and this is what I struggle. Like I do struggle the whole thing about debt, but also I'm kind of going, well, when we get the interest rates and debt, and people can't afford the big payments, what's going to happen to the rental market then?
Yeah,
because no one's going to be in the non-rental market, as in the mortgage market. So more people will be renting, and that has to therefore
so they're going to pay a price.
Correct. Somebody's going to pay a price.
Yeah, but those renters aren't going to have a lot of money. Is the point? Like just because there's more renters doesn't mean the average rent goes up. These people are skint, right? The cost of everything has gone through the roof. They have no money, right? So if rent also goes up, then it just means they can't afford to rent either, which means there's going to be millions of people wanting to rent, and every rent is going to be above their means, which means the rent has to fall to meet them. And it's just how far that falls, right? And then even then, when it falls and meets them, are they going to be regular payers? Because they're still going to be in a very tumultuous, very rocky kind of environment. And the problem is, that why I don't buy this whole leveraging debt thing. I think it's fine, right? In a fiat world where everything's good, everything's gravy, 0% interest rates, do it 10, 20 years ago, all great. But read your freaking agreement with the bank. It is such a one-sided agreement. They can change the rules whenever they fucking want on their side. You can't do shit. Yeah. So if you are doing this, and I went into the property thing and I had a little look. I studied some of the big property guys, and millions of pounds worth of property that they didn't really own, but they technically did on paper. It was the bank's money. And you just go, and they're juggling huge amounts of money, and they're just keeping on top of it, and they're making a mint, right? They are making a mint. I'm not going to deny it. They're working hard and they're doing well. But the biggest factor why I never went into it was I can't control my biggest business partner in this venture, which is the bank. They hold all the cards. If at any point they decide to change the rules of the game, I'm fucked, and they're not. And there's nothing I can do to mitigate that. The only way to mitigate it really is to be your own bank and to set it out. And I know that is difficult. It's hard to get started that way.
Yeah.
But that's why I would just lean back and go, no. Just DCA into Bitcoin, build up your stack that way, and then start from there. Because I think it's very, very risky to be leveraging large amounts of debt right now. Literally, it was only a few months ago we were talking about the Silicon Valley banks going all bust, all these small American banks going bust. They all got bailed out. That was a ripple, and they bailed them out and managed to shut it down. But that could have very easily cascaded into the bigger banks and then gone out of America and started smashing banks across Europe. If that happens, all this good freaking times with leveraging debt to buy houses and stuff is fucking over. Because guess what? That's when that little clause that is in your agreement that you've never read, where it says we can change the rules at any time, they suddenly go, we need our money back. Oh, how much? All of it now. What if I don't pay? Bang, fines, prison time, fraud charges, We need our money back now. Yes, because when the bad times hit, the banks will fucking panic and they will do everything not to go under. So they will put everyone that are owed money, that they're owed money from, they will lean on them as hard as they fucking can. And they'll drive every single person that they are owed money from. They will drive every single one into bankruptcy to try and save themselves. So I never wanted to be in that position with a bank. So I never wanted that agreement. Because obviously I've signed so many agreements as a director of a PLC company, and I always made sure the agreements were fair on both sides. When I don't want to be fucked on my side, right? So I've seen many contracts in that way, and I make sure I do that personally as well. But I had to overlook that when I was buying a house, because the house thing, all the rights are just in like one side of like the surveyor, the lawyer. They all just went, you're paying us for all this stuff, but if we get anything wrong, it's on you. And they go, all right, fine, whatever. I'm only paying you little bits of money, so fine. I'm paying you to get this fucking paperwork done. But I always notice when I sign a contract with a bank, and especially a mortgage one, it was horrendous. I would never sign that as an individual or as a business. But as an individual, if you want to deal with a bank, you have to. There's no let's amend the T's and C's.
I was going to say that there is no get around any of this, though.
No,
when humans need a roof over their head, it's either you're agreeing to the landlord's rules if you're renting, or the bank's rules if you've got a mortgage on the property. And the only way really is if you're in that finite position of not needing a mortgage and then buying the property outright. And that is, not the position of most people.
Even dealing with a landlord, right? I dealt with a landlord. I rented my entire life until I bought a house outright. I negotiated my contract. There was stuff in the contract I didn't like. I told him, what's this? What's that? No. And even the price of the rent, I went, nah, lower. And guess what? He conceded on all my things. So, but if I'd have got a mortgage and I'd have gone, I don't fancy paying that much a month, and also, that term, take it out, the bank would have just laughed in my face. And they've gone, can you send that to your legal department? And they've gone, no. I just not only are you going to sign this, and what I used to laugh about when I even just entertained this, right? You have to pay like £1,000 to take the mortgage out. Like you need to pay for our admin. And I'm like, this is so funny that you think I'm going to do any of this. And all it did, I had one conversation with one bank about a mortgage back when I was like 25, when I was like, am I doing the wrong thing? Like everything that I've looked at suggests I'm doing the right thing by renting. But let's just go and have a chat with a bank. And I just came out of that meeting like laughing. Like how can anyone sign that bit of paper? I'm like, I'm never signed that bit of paper. So I just went away. I'm like, I'm never fucking signing a mortgage document in my life. And now I'm happy to say I will never need to. So,
but it's very similar to even just having an overdraft, which most people don't consider. If they wanted to call the overdraft in at any point, they can do that. As well. So, and of course, any debt, but equally, the money that is just sat in the account that you believe is yours, they can hold on to it because of the possession of it. I mean, we are talking that there is a high unlikelihood of this happening, but it is still very much there.
Well, let's just move on to our next couple of stories.
Well,
it's because when you say it's low likelihood, I guess you're going in the UK.
In the UK,
correct.
America. In the
straight
UK
away,
I would go. Caveat.
I would say I agree for now.
For now, yeah.
But who knows? In a couple of years' time, I would probably move that's a medium risk now, and then probably another couple of years, I go now it's high risk. Another couple of years, it'd be I told you so.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, again, I don't disagree, given the fact that, for now, because everything that we have seen and are seeing, it is coming, it's just it just takes time. Let's jump into it, because we're lagging on the stories, but great in terms of content. But that's what
I've enjoyed it. Like there's sometimes the stories get in the way of like a good chat. So
yeah, absolutely.
But this one is basically it's Argentina, so they've now hit their interest rate is 118% per year, and there's a chart on the screen where, to be fair, I don't know why this person ended up in my feed. I don't follow her, but she's gone. This isn't a shit coin. She said meme coin. It's the Argentina's peso, and it's just trending to zero, right? It's the chart is just down only, and it's over a 6-year period. 2018, 2024, and the value of the peso is just they're hitting hyperinflation, right?
So here we go. We got 5 years ago, August 2018. What's the price?
What compared in what dollars or?
We're going to go for sterling.
Oh, so what? So 1 peso is
£1. How many pesos would you get for £1?
Okay. I don't know the conversion rate.
50? I don't know.
I don't know how many.
Wow. It's 444.71 5 years ago.
Okay.
Well, actually, sorry, that's ruined my one because it's showing me the wrong figure. That's not good. It's for, so that's the figure now. I've got mixed up. Apologies about that. So that's 2023 is the figure of 444.71. It was hovering and showing me the wrong figure. So 5 years ago, what do you reckon it was?
Oh, so 2000.
5 years ago. So we say a usual country. What is it? The monetary supply doubles every 15 to 20 years?
Yeah.
Usually.
If 5 years should be about 30%. So it should be only about 500. But it won't be. It'll be like, you probably got about
625.
I was going to say like 6,000.
No, if you think so, I've given you the 2023. Sorry, because I've messed this up a little bit. 2023 is 444. So bear in mind that's how many pesos you get today. That's because pesos are devalued so much. So it'd be a lot. Yeah, be a lot lower. Sorry, because I really messed up the intro to that. So 2018, what do you think it could be?
All right, so it should be about 400.
400, 350 maybe, somewhere in that kind of ballpark.
But I'm guessing it's probably like 50 or something.
Not far off, 39.57. So it's gone up tenfold in 5 years.
And that's against the sterling, which has also been inflating like fuck.
Yeah, 40%. If we had something good to peg it against, which was stable, so we can't use Bitcoin because obviously Bitcoin's been climbing, it's got volatility. Whereas we've got no kind of like hard line to do it against. Maybe you could do it against the S&P, would be the easiest one to show. But if we look at 1 year, 162. So it's more than doubled in a year.
Yeah, and
it's literally this last day is when the 18% happened. And it's gone from 363 up to 444. And literally they're just destroying the people's salaries, their savings, feeding their families, because they cannot control their, it's not that they can't control their spending, it's that they can't control their greed. Because this money isn't going towards like, let's build some new roads. This money's just being siphoned off, isn't it? Like you don't, when you're going into hyperinflation, you don't start printing money after money. You stop it. You kind of go, shit, we printed too much. We need to stop, raise interest rates. But instead they're going, we're going to get as much fucking money out as we can.
Yeah. Going back to your point, Mr. Orlin, in terms of, this is exactly it. This is the pound decreasing as well at the same time. So, it's not happening as fast right now, but eventually we will be seeing the continued decline of the pound, just not the pesos. But we've seen it over however many, over 300 years in terms of the buying power of the pound.
Yeah, because we're still down 99%. It's just that final 1% is just somehow is a social norm, and that's okay.
Yeah,
it's kind of bizarre, isn't it? That if someone back, 100 years ago realized that the average wage was 35 grand a year now, they go, "Wow, you're all super rich.
Super rich.
That's more than I get in 20 years of working." You go, "No,
and the rest.
It's just inflation, mate. Like it's
you would have been getting a house a year or 2 houses a year, in terms of the actual value of a house in your salary."
Yeah, because it's just nuts, isn't it? Where you just go, we've just accepted the fact that the pound is 99% down, but somehow it's fine. And I think that the worrying thing about the chart, I wish this Argentina peso chart went back a bit further, but
I was going to say it can only go back to about the 1990s since they last destroyed a currency, because they've been through 5, haven't they, in the last 100 years?
Yeah. This only goes back to 2018. But 2018, what you can see in 2017 and 2018 is the dips aren't that big. They step down, right? There's even some recoveries kind of mixed in there. But then once it collapses, it really collapses around 2019, and the collapses are fucking big, fucking huge. And then since 2020, it's so consistently down. It's almost suspicious at how perfectly down it is. There's literally no recoveries now whatsoever. It's just money printing. Complete faith has been lost in that currency.
Oh, Jesus, I've forgotten what it was at the turn of the century. I've just loaded it up and done max on it. 293. So this is dollar, because I think it goes back a bit further against the dollar. For a single dollar, you get two Argentino pesos and 93 cents or whatever it is. And now, it's hitting 350 or whatever it is.
Got 100x down.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable.
They've lost 99% of their wealth, and that's in relation to dollars, which had also lost 50%.
That's 20 years as well. So it's very, very scary. And like you said, it's happening. It's just whether somehow we're going to get through this and the government goes back to the 2 to 3% is what they claim, but really 5%, or whether they kind of go, we need more of this because we need to sustain ourselves and grow the government, which is what we do every year, like a good parasite.
We know we know they cannot go back. They cannot do de-inflation. They can't decrease it. They can't even do low inflation. Governments have become so bloated, and the people at the top are so fucking greedy. That's why literally right now we're in a pointless war in Ukraine, aren't we? And they're funneling over billions and billions and billions of pounds or dollars, whichever one you want.
As they've pointed out,
to the war machine.
They've had massive fires in Maui, but they're giving more money to Ukraine in their latest batch, even though Hawaii's one of their states.
Yeah. And also, I've loved some of the stories in Mali where there's plenty of conspiracies out there that they started the fire themselves.
Well, that's one which I read as well, which was, what is it? It's funny how it's only the poor areas which burnt, all the mansions did not.
Yeah, and all the important politicians were not on the islands at that point, and the alerts didn't go out, and the whole thing just stinks.
And my cynicism as well is apparently Jeff Bezos and Lewis Hamilton donated money to help. But I was also thinking, okay, does that then give them the right to buy into the island? So are they potentially, like it's an insurance claim?
But why would they buy? Why would they buy in?
Why would they?
Global warming means it's going to be underwater soon. That's why Bill Gates has never bought that house which cost him $40 million on the seaside. That's why Obama's never bought one by the sea. And that's why Oprah's never bought one by the sea.
Well, if you donate, perhaps you also then get to claim it as your own.
Yeah, I imagine that there's going to be lots of people bought off and put into a different area away from the front. I think we can predict this quite easily.
If you can rebuild the island and you help to rebuild the island, then maybe you lay a stake of claim to the island and you've got the island at a much lower cost than it would have been.
I think what will happen is, this ground can't be repaired at the moment. We're going to build you all these houses over there in the middle, away from the front. So it's going to take a good 5 years for this land to become good again. And maybe we'll move you back then, but then in 5 years' time, they'll build mansions there instead, or hotels.
Yeah.
Well, we kind of gone on a massive detour, surprise, away from Argentina and its yearly inflation. But I think my final point on this is what I really admire is their willingness to stimulate the economy to grow back GDP. I make a joke, but it is very, very sad because you can't imagine what those people are feeling and what's happening inside their head. Everything's been broken in front of them because they're corrupt government.
Yeah. All those people that are close to retirement age, their working years are done.
But it's even people in their 20s. It's uncertainty. Like I just can't imagine, or someone with a young family. If we're over there, I just don't know what I think.
Yeah, well, if we weren't Bitcoiners, we'd be back on zero now. And you just go, what was the point in the last 20 years of working?
Well,
and what's the point in working tomorrow? Because
it's not just on zero. It's like, how can you afford to feed your family? How just tomorrow? And how can you get a shelter over their head?
Well, that's what I mean by zero, right? You've got nothing.
But I just don't think you can even get off zero because the money's not worth anything.
Working 20 years, you've been doing well. Yet technically, you won't be able to afford your rent and feed your family tomorrow. It's a disgrace. But at least if you're in your 20s, there's a way out, and you can go right. You just talk to people in your community, and I guess it really brings you back to community and go right. What jobs need doing locally? What can I do to get food? That's what you'd end up doing.
And you come with
who I really feel sorry for though is the 65-year-olds and plus that have done their working life. They have their savings, and they get stolen. They're gone.
And they're too old to work. Like they're not any good.
Exactly. I think they're ill. They're infirm. They can't do work. They're going to literally have to rely on handouts. And if no one's there to hand out their money to them to give them food, they will die.
I suppose this is part of community though, looking after your parents as well. If it's a miss situation, I know that I'd be doing the same or trying to do the same at least. And I think what you've made a good point about, exchange of services and goods, it becomes a community. And when you end up going, well, I did a bigger job for you, I can't really say that's the same as you doing what you did. So we need to come up with a way of currency. So you're kind of going back into, we can't trust the peso, we cannot trust the government. I hope they've come to that conclusion now. And therefore we need another currency, maybe Bitcoin. It can't be fucked with.
Yeah.
Which I think brings us on to our next story about the potential president for Argentina. So someone with a very dodgy barnet has come onto the horizon. He looks like he's off a sketch show or something, off a comedy.
He does. He looks like a fucking joke there.
But he seems to be saying the right things. But what I didn't like is, on one of the first pictures which I saw of him, it had a WEF backdrop, and I was just like, my God. I don't know what he was doing or what his previous life was.
Yeah. Explain the story first, and then he does have a WEF background though. Yeah.
Oh, he does. So Javier Milei has won a presidential primary election, but I believe it's not enough. I think if he gets above, what is it, 45%, he can become president off the back of that. But if he doesn't, I think he's some like 35%.
He's
32. They go into a general election, which means he's still got a good chance of being elected, but he's just not outright the favourite. So it'd be really interesting if he was just voted in, because everyone's just lost faith, and he talks about Bitcoin and they know they need another currency.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? To get imagine like running for president in Argentina, and not being critical of the money in the banks. And if I was to get elected there, even if I was a scammer, I go, oh, I'm going to stop inflation. Da, da, da. So that's what he said. And from what I can tell from the other candidates, they haven't really said that. They're very much towing the line of, no, we're doing the right things. We just need to get this and this fixed. Whereas he has just come out and been very critical of the banks. He's been supportive of Bitcoin, which those two things in hand has put him the front runner to be the president of Argentina. However, this came out probably about a day ago, maybe 2 days ago, in Bitcoin Twitter. So people suddenly started digging into Javier Milei to go, okay, he's been favorable on Bitcoin. He hates the banks. Let's just see is he just saying what people want to hear to get in power, and he's really just the same old guy in a suit. It doesn't look good. He's been at various WEF conferences.
Well, if you read his resume, he did an economics degree. He did a master's at an economic university. He became chief economist at a private pension company. So he's obviously linked as well. You don't just become chief economist after a master's.
He became chief economist at a pension company.
Yeah. Like I said, you don't just become at that kind of age.
That isn't a fucking graduate job, is it? No.
Yeah, and then he's a member of B20, who's an economic policy group of the International Chamber of Commerce. I've heard of them before. So I just went, fucking hell, that's another shadowy IMF kind of group. And then the World Economic Forum. He is a specialist in economic growth. So it's just like, my God, this guy's a puppet, isn't he?
Yeah. Unfortunately.
He has authored 9 books. I hope one of them isn't called The Great Reset.
Yeah, it's one of them where I saw it cross my Twitter, and you'd already put the first Argentina story in there. I went, oh, have they potentially got some light at the end of the tunnel where you've got a Bitcoin president coming in that, like, clearly, like, everyone's money that, like I said, like the 65-year-old pluses are fucked because their money earning days are done. But at least, as you were saying, like the 20, 30, 40-year-olds, they will have faith. Like, we've got a president that potentially is coming in that will stop this. So we can just go back to work and start earning our money again, and we'll be on much more of a stable currency. But I've got a feeling this Javier guy, he's a puppet.
He's a scammer, isn't he?
100%. To me, he looks just like the Argentinian Boris Johnson, and it's a joke. It doesn't fly with me. Yes, he might be saying what everybody else is saying in terms of, the money in Argentina needs to be fixed, and not just the money, but the situation needs to be fixed. But I don't think it's going to happen.
But I think the situation gets resolved by the money. Like, you can't, with fiat, they kind of go, oh, we're siphoning off too much money, better print some, or tax people, or do a haircut. It's like with Bitcoin, you can't access their bank accounts. It's literally, once the money's there, it's like, where's the budget gone for this year? Where's it gone, Javier? Where's it gone? And it's just like, you said you're going to run a balance, but it ends up getting tarred and feathered in the streets. There's no escape of hard money. It's literally, if a politician does something, he's going to fucking burn for it, and it's obvious, rather than coming up with some bullshit.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't be surprised equally if he wasn't assassinated, similar to what happened in Ecuador.
Not. He worked for the WEF, and he worked for this B20, who was the G20 group. He's not one of us.
Yes, it's more it's that guy in Niger. He seems to be proper spitting facts. Like, he's decided. But
it's hard to actually know what he's saying with a guy in Niger. Like, it might just be someone posting something which he hasn't said just to get the views.
Yeah. But yeah, this guy, who knows? But I was hopeful for about 5 minutes when I saw this story. Then I started clicking through the replies and listening to Bitcoiners and going, "Oh, they've dug into this guy, and he looks like he's got ties in with so many higher power elitist WEF type characters." You go, what are the odds that this is the guy that's going to stand up to them all and just tell them to fuck off and go onto a Bitcoin standard and actually stop inflation?
What are the odds that they are one of the first countries who go onto CBDC to rescue them?
Yeah, who knows? It could be a proper bait and switch. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's equally a really good use case to watch because, one of them's got to go first. And then we understand the playbook. Because we don't really know how, in China, they already had totalitarian control over the people. So it's pretty easy in order to bring it in. But where things might be slightly more liberal, and we kind of already covered it before, it's for your own good in terms of, we think that you shouldn't have anything to hide. And then everyone's like, yeah, we don't have anything to hide.
Let me watch you shit.
Yeah. Thanks for that image at this time of night. And, ultimately, it will be interesting to see how every other country brings it in because people aren't stupid. We're in an information-rich age.
They've got to make this one a success. So they do Argentina rescue it. And it's like, oh, CBDCs are amazing. You can helicopter money. And everyone's just like, oh, please bring it in. And we're just like, I'll do anything for a CBDC. And we have songs about it, just like we had songs about lockdowns and maybe even like CBDC dances. Please bring it in. I just think I think that's what it's got to be. It's got to be, oh, yeah, we'll do Bitcoin. Oh, actually, we'll do a CBDC because we can control it then as a country. Bam. Yeah. Oh, they've done really well because they started siphoning money in from the WEF to make it look good to attract every other country in.
Imagine even if they did 10% inflation on their CBDC, people in Argentina would still be like, that's great. We're 118% inflation right now.
Yeah, that's true. Anything is literally better. They could be doing 50% and they would be so much better.
Yeah, I reckon they still probably can be complaining at 50. But like, we're in the UK, we're at 10 to 20 now, and no one's revolting, right? So I think 10 to 20 is an acceptable level. So they could literally run a CBDC in Argentina at 10, 20% inflation. And the people there would go, comparing our life now to where it was before, infinitely better. And you go, bang, there we go. Case study, 20% inflation, infinitely better. Live a good life and smash it on everyone else.
Yeah.
Now eat your bugs.
Yeah. And cash is legal, Bitcoin is legal, CBDC, only way of earning money. All bank accounts get closed, converted to CBDCs. Fuck me. Right. Last story of the night.
Yeah, last one. So, a song for our time.
Well, you're going to have to do the famous finger click for this one, aren't you?
Oh, yeah.
You want it?
People like you wish I could just wake up and it not be true, but it is. Oh, it is. Living in the new world with an whole soul. These rich men north of Richmond, Lord knows they all just wanna have total control. Wanna know what you think, wanna know what you do, and they don't think you know. But I know that you do, cause your dollar ain't shit, and it's taxed to no end, cause the rich men know the rich men.
There it is.
I'd seen this bouncing all over Twitter, and I hadn't actually listened to it. I just kind of read the comments, scrolled past it, and so this forced me to actually listen to it. I mean, I was trying to work out what on earth he was saying for half of it.
It needs subtitles, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But
it's just redneck.
Yeah, he's just a redneck, yeah. And it's obviously it's divided Bitcoin Twitter severely, but this is a guy called Oliver Anthony. His at on Twitter is ain't got a dollar, but then people have gone, but you do have some dollars for some $3,000 microphones and a very expensive guitar, but you ain't got a dollar. Okay, mate. But again, the song he is singing is just a good old country song in the kind of sea shanty country type tone. But he's talking about inflation, right? He's talking about government corruption. He's talking about money being sent overseas, not being spent on the people, and people not being able to live their lives and just earn a good wage and support their family. That and
He talked about that they want to know what
He's
you
singing
think.
the truth.
I know. A song that isn't just about slapping up and down on a sloppy dick and wonky bonk bonk on a sloppy pussy and what? You mean this guy's actually talking about the world and not just getting laid? Like, what the fuck? This guy's never going to go anywhere.
He sang.
Fly.
I think I made out some lyrics which are want to know what you think and what you do. So that's about the government, and it's just kind of like going to the CBDC. You know, why do they need this? And then the dollar's shit and is taxed to no end. Though I can't be certain those are the definite lyrics, but that's what I kind of got out of it, and it pretty much was a story. But I've seen some funny comments because I think I saw some Bitcoiners jumping on a thread where some liberal was calling it right wing and racist. And I just like, he's singing about inflation and taxes and how the government's screwing you over, you idiot.
Yeah.
Literally, it's been put out onto, I don't know, CNN or whatever, and then the left wingers have come in and said, "Oh, it's racist."
Anyone that talks like not positively about the government, you've got to be a racist. It's just...
But I thought the left, it's just strange how things have changed, haven't they? Whereas it used to be like left wing was a bit anti-establishment, everyone should help each other. Yep. Whereas this is just like, I will suck at the teeth of the government who are screwing me over, but I'll tell everyone it tastes good.
The left wing now are just socialists. They which is like so pro-government. Literally, like I don't want any money for my work. Just put everything I earn into the government, and then just let that. I would just accept whatever handout they give me. Like that is. So it's bizarre when someone talks out about, taxation probably isn't right. They go, far right, extremist, racist, xenophobe, anti-Semite. He's just saying taxation might be a little too high. And really, if you dig into it, maybe we shouldn't get taxed at all for what we really get. And you go,
but they built the road.
They built so racist. What the fuck, dude? I'm talking about taxation, not about skin color. How the fuck did you get racism out of that?
With taxes, they build roads. So I love the angry goose. Who built roads before 1904, motherfucker?
So funny, isn't it? Like private businesses have built anything of note in the last 1,000 years. Yeah. Oh, but we can't build roads for our governments. You go, what the fuck are you talking about, you fucking idiot? But anyway. But people have been saying simping for this guy on Bitcoin Twitter is a bit sad. He's clearly kind of almost pitching this song. He's a relatively rich guy and all that. But I just go, let's not dig too deep. This is the last guy, right? The president of Argentina. I do want to dig into him, and I do want to know whether he's legit because he's potentially going to be running a country. This guy, Oliver Anthony, I don't give a fuck about his background. I don't give a fuck who he is. The song he's singing has a lot of truth in it. It's an all right, catchy tune. I don't hear many songs like this that are actually basically advertising Bitcoin. He doesn't mention Bitcoin at any point. He isn't a Bitcoiner, as far as I know. He just has acknowledged and seen the state of the economy and the finance and the struggles that day-to-day people have right now. And he's just articulating it in the song. And I go, you know what? I have respect for someone that sings about something that is actually real. It isn't just boobs and vaginas. So I gave him a like, and I'm fine with that. So but I'm not going to fucking make him my hero. He isn't my hero anymore. He's just a song that I click like on and go, fair play. I'm glad you made that song. Congrats. And then I move on with my day. That's as deep as it goes.
Sounds like you're a racist.
I think Sir Neverlook's drifting off down there, so I think we need to go.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
One take.
One take. Never any pressure. I've got this. So it's been Pod 108, brought to you by Mr. All-In, aka the $1 Trillion Man, Dr. Evil 10%, aka the People's Champ, myself, Sir Neverlook, aka the Excellence of Execution, ready for bed and also to put these kids to bed, and Mrs. No Show, aka No Show. Peace.
I could just wake up and it not be true, but it is. Oh, it is. Living in the new world with an whole soul. These rich men north of Richmond, Lord knows they all just wanna have total control. Wanna know what you think, wanna know what you do, and they don't think you know, but I know that you do, 'cause your dollar ain't shit, and it's taxed to no end, 'cause the rich men